Hello and welcome to another game of Dota 2. The difference from this one, the difference between this game and the ones I'm normally playing is that this one is one, played by my mates who are all terrible, and two, very live and low skill. So I have no idea how bad this will go, but I do know that I'll laugh at my mates later for it. So, yeah, I still get game stats. It's the regular spectator camera rather than the live one. Dota Plus is far too rich for my blood. But the Radiant have a Terrorblade Witch Doctor safe lane, a Viper mid, and an Axe IO off lane. The Dire have a Crystal Maiden Legion offlane, it looks like, surprisingly, a Bloodseeker Pudge safe lane, and a Quap mid. Let's swap over to free camera. Looks like the Pudge might be memeing, but I mean, aren't all Pudges always memeing? We do see the IO start with a stick, which is, I'm not sure why. It's not. Maybe it expects the Crystal Maiden, who would even then, you know, there's not a lot of spells being spammed. The starting items on the axe are kind of weird. No Quelling Blade, but and not using well, half the standard gold. Any other weird items? Looks like Bloodseeker's running around, giving the old run around, trying to grab the runes. He's a bit light on regen, especially against a pretty harassed heavy lane. Viper, standard, at least. It looks like it'll be 3 runes for the Radiant, 1 for the Dire. Have a look at the other starting items. Quap has no shed tangos, loads the stats. Fairy Fire for desperate situations. Sim started with a headdress, so you can expect this to be a pretty aggressive lane, which will be quite effective in Terrorblade. This is pretty standard. I tend to start this when I play Terrorblade. We do have a ward down behind the tier 1 tower already, which will be very nice. And the All Chat, let's hope I don't have to mute that. Starting numbers on the Witch Doctor also seem fine. We do see the meta on the Terrorblade. Let's see if he pops it to secure any of the first wave or get any harass. I play Terrorblade badly, and that's what I often do. We do see the Crystal Maiden blocking the pull camp, it looks like, which is not the most efficient use of time. You're not stood there for much longer than was necessary, but has managed to trade very efficiently with the Witch Doctor. Looks like the Witch Doctor might go bad. Coconut's committed, and he runs back under tower. That one might just give away that they have a ward there, but you never know. Either way, Terrorblade is managing to farm, kind of just trading farm with the Legion for the time being. Meanwhile, in mid, this is a very unpleasant lane for everyone involved. It's poison, and it doesn't say it's poison. Oh, no, it is a poison diagram. So it's just poison on poison. Unfortunately, I think Viper wins that one, and will steadily just harass this Queen of Pain out. So we should expect a pretty solid win for the Radiant in the mid lane. Meanwhile, Pudge looking for a hook, I suppose. Doesn't really seem to be doing very much. Does finally get the hook onto the axe, but there's already a path cut out, so nothing actually happens. I don't really know what he was expecting. The trees are already missing. Either way, Bloodseeker's getting farm. He isn't really being stopped by the axe tool, which is surprising. There's a lot of regen in this lane. You have an IO. Pull is going to be interrupted to some extent, or not at all. Yeah, no, the pull goes ahead. Maybe the Pudge grabs them here. Yeah, very nice. Meanwhile, down, is anything really happening on the map? Looks like the Terrorblade is starting to get pressured, but the Radiant are still doing very well out of their lanes. Currently, they have the most CS. The meta is pop to kill the Crystal Maiden. Almost certainly will be a first blood. Maybe might manage to just sort of walk away. The illusions, only 1 point in illusion, doesn't do a huge amount of damage, but with that move speed buff on meta, one more right click is all that is required, and she will go down. A lot of time wasted, but still quite a nice victory for the Radiant. First blood, always worth it. But it has given the Legion a bit of space to catch up. Speaking of catching up, this Queen of Pain really needs to do some. 3 last hits. 3. It's a very hard lane, granted, but the Viper has 11 denies. It's quite a stomp, but just, I don't remember if I said it, the people I know in this game are the Axe, the Io, and the Viper, and believe me, they have some throw potential. If there's one thing that these boys do, it's lose 1 games, and I'm right there with them very often. Looks like the first rune will go to the Viper, but there's no bottle to capitalize. Looks like I'll just maybe take a bit of a forward position, get some right clicks in on the Quap in a second, or maybe just go for the last hit. Hard to... what is he doing? Oh, I guess he's killing the CM who has decided to go feed mid instead of bottom. Very kind of her. Meanwhile, up top, I don't really know. I don't know how the Axe is really getting anything done in this lane. Hook misses. I mean, you'd think it would be a good lane for an Axe, but it didn't seem to be going well before, and all of a sudden Bloodseeker's just getting nothing. I guess Pudge is wildly unhelpful. Don't know what he's doing here. Walking back to pick up his courier, going back to Fountain, who knows. CM does manage to secure a bounty, and then just... is it another CM who just doesn't get a point in Crystal Nova? Look, I get that you like your other abilities, but Crystal Nova's nice for the lanes, guys. Like, you can get ranged creeps with it. You can harass and apply a slow with it to set up with your offlaner. It's got a low cooldown. It costs slightly less mana than Frostbite. It's very good. Meanwhile, Maledict onto the Legion Commander. It looks like not much will come of it. Legion's sort of trying to play this lane 1v2 because Crystal Maiden's having a nice tour of the world and achieving basically nothing in doing so. But might get the Witch Doctor here if there's an overwhelming odds, or just a right click. Meta's committed. Please don't tell me this turns into a double kill. Legion runs under tower and will die to the meta. What a clown fiesta of a dive. It's always quite fun to watch games like this, even though it reminds me that this is where I live. Witch Doctor denies himself to neutral creeps. I don't know why. He was only level 4. Now he needs to wait 25 seconds and use a TP. He could have just walked. It's only about... you're faster than creeps. Creeps are... no, you're about the speed of creeps. Yeah, he's faster than creeps. It would have only taken him 50 seconds to walk to and from. So he actually saved no time at all by doing this, but you know what, whatever. Maybe the time spent regioning in Fountain. Meanwhile, Bloodseeker up top. Bloodright doesn't connect, and he decides to juke back towards the enemies. Maybe CM will finally be used. No, she doesn't have Crystal Nova. Bloodseeker will go down. Io will go down, and the 6 last hit Quap will rotate up and scream and kill the Axe, which is probably the most gold she's received all game. Meanwhile, the Viper has also come up here for a reason I don't fully understand. Maybe because the Quap did? I don't know. He could be taking tower. It's not a catapult wave, but Viper likes hitting towers. I don't see why he's not doing that. But you know what? He's won mid so thoroughly. I'm sure he can afford a 20-30 mistakes at this point. I mean, it's a bit of a one-sided massacre. Though somehow the Quap is only a level behind, which is very surprising considering the number of denies and other. I don't quite know how that one's happened. Maybe he just hasn't caught all the range creeps. Maybe it's not even melee creeps. But even then, surely 27 denies gets you more. Meanwhile, Crystal Maiden seems to think she can stand up to a DD Viper, but manages to juke through the trees and get away that time, which is a welcome change, a breath of fresh air. But the tower almost must be falling here. DD Viper, overcharge on the IO. Fought through the overcharge. Can't really be contested. You'd need at least, I'd say, 2 more heroes. 1 more and the IO just. It doesn't have a full stick, to be fair, but it's a lot of sustain. It would be very hard to deal with. The DD runs out. Quap desperately pinging to call for help, and the Pudge will oblige. Will hook in. We'll try to hook for the IO, which is definitely the better choice, but hook is a bit too short at the moment, unfortunately. Meanwhile, up top, let's have a look at the net worth, compare how this top lane has gone. It's gone horribly for the Bloodseeker. Better for the Bloodseeker than for the Quap. And for a pretty... Well, I don't know really what Bloodseeker is anymore. Previously, I would have said, for a reasonably fast-paced fighting core, getting dumpstered in lane by an axe is pretty bad. You don't really have the catch-up mechanisms, but I don't understand Bloodseeker anymore. He's changed to some extent. Doesn't have his ultimate. When he does, maybe he has kill threat, but it's not an easy thing to kill an axe, even though the axe isn't really going any defensive items, so it's definitely possible if there's a rotation. Rupture onto the IO, probably getting the reload out. It doesn't have reload yet, actually. I'm a little blind, but they do kill the IO as I have a lag spike. And in mid, they kill the Viper. They kill the Viper on top of a catapult wave, so you'd think mid tower would fall. But instead of pressuring an objective, they think, let's leave. Understandable in the Legion's case. She did definitely... Looks like she won a duel. Yeah, she's won 2 so far, and one of them probably on the Viper. Maybe not. It hasn't been 50 seconds. But understandable to back off when you have no resources, but you are also... There were 2 other heroes there that could have pushed the tower, and mid tower is always nice if you can get it for free. The IO dies once again. Looks like the Pudge managed to get... and Pudge got a dismember off on the IO on the runes. Probably killed it with the Bloodseeker's help, but I didn't catch it because I'm bad at observing and I'm just watching a Viper miss last hits. But he gets 1. He gets the range creep. That's important. Very important. No towers have fallen yet, despite the general stompy nature of 2 out of 3 lanes. I think bottom lane was reasonably even. Legion has a lot of levels because CM has decided not to be in lane, so solo XP the whole time, which it can be a good decision as a 4 position, but it isn't here because the 4 position didn't achieve anything with the rotations, and definitely had the potential to bully out a Terrorblade. You have a magical nuke and a sort of semi-nuke in the form of Frostbite, and then you have another nuke in Overwhelming Odds. And Terrorblade basically has no HP, so very susceptible to magical nukes in the laning stage. Another nice dismember will find the Witch Doctor up top. The IO might just be going down, and he will. It doesn't have his relocate yet, so he can't relocate out, but the Viper rotates up. The axe may be going down here, and he will. Will the Quap manage to get away? Bottles up, manages to survive, and only the Pudge falls. And at the same time, the Dire finally take that tower. Legion just constantly applying pressure, and the Terrorblade just AFK jungles, letting the tower fall while the mid rotates up top to try and counter gank. It's definitely dangerous for this axe to go straight blink this game. I don't think you really need it as an axe in this game, because you're not going to be team fighting for a very long time because you have a Terrorblade. Terrorblade just wants to farm. Granted, the Terrorblade should. Nice duel on the Witch Doctor will definitely. Maybe not. Nice TP in and a call from the axe will keep him alive, but a scream will finish off the Witch Doctor. The Sunder May have brought the Terrorblade just a bit too low. Will CM finally achieve something? Overwhelming odds to run under the tower. The Frostbite is up. Will she get it off? No. Oh, she did get it off, actually. And the Terrorblade will fall. It gives his life to try and save his Witch Doctor unintentionally. But as I was saying, and you sort of saw it there, the Axe has this blink initiation, but has no follow-up. Will probably be, looking for the Vanguard now, but he can't do anything. They don't want to take a 5-on-5 fight with the Terrorblade before the Terrorblade is ready to fight. Terrorblade can have lots of lane presence and can take smaller engagements, but doesn't want to fight. He wants to farm. And Blink Dagger is an item that lets you fight. Another duel for the Legion. Looks like Io might be going down as well. Finally does have the relocate, but it's off cooldown. On cooldown, rather. Looks like maybe a Dismember onto the Viper won't actually achieve anything. A bit of a feed. No Scream on the Quap, so no reason for the Quap to be here. And they might just lose this top tower. So it does look like both teams are intent on sort of feeding away any advantage they might find. This is very informative for me, because I make these mistakes. The same mistakes as Terrorblade is making, I have made yesterday. It's interesting to see the knock-on effects and how itemization doesn't really make all that sense, because if I can finally finish my thought before interrupting myself, because everyone is determined to repeatedly die, we do see the entirety of the Dire standing around this tier 1, trying to defend it, which is kind of a win for the Radiant. They're only committing 3 heroes and they're getting 5 to just sit around doing nothing, but it all depends on if they manage to feed. Root onto the Axe, followed up by the Blood Right. It does connect, Duel goes down, follow-up damage, and the Duel will be won. Relocate out, doesn't bring the Viper with him. Dismember, Viper will be going down. Io will be going down very shortly if they understand how relocate works, which at least one of them does. Does he have the timing? He actually has the timing right as well. Attempts for the TP out, might get it, doesn't. Scream Pain's committed, possibly overkill. And all of a sudden, this becomes very bad for the Radiant, because they feed 3 heroes, 2 of them cores, and they lose a tower off the back of it. Sure, Terrorblade does get some farm at the time, but all he's doing is AFKing in the jungle. He doesn't even have... He just has a Manta. No power treads or anything. Which is... He just can't do anything this game. I don't think it's a very good Manta game, to be honest. I mean... It's okay. There's like a couple of debuffs. You know, you can debug, you can purge off the Quap stuff, some of the CMs, CM root and things, but you can't deal with Dismember. So I think perhaps S and Y would have been better this game, status resistance and all that, and then just have a BKB later on. It's not really. I mean, the Asher helps you farm, though the rest of the Manta doesn't really. In this. But God, I really need to get back to what I was saying. Axe, Blink, bad. Bad because no teamfight and teamfight item. Teamfight, if you get a teamfight item as a power spike, you then have to teamfight, but your team doesn't want to teamfight. So either you have a useless item that you could have gotten later, and you could have gotten something better to keep yourself alive, and also you don't really need the Blink this early on in the game. Or you force your team into team fights that they don't want to be in, and then you start feeding, because you're fighting with a numbers disadvantage. They are way more fast paced. Bloodseeker does not mind fighting, whereas Terrorblade wants to farm more. Oh yay, lag spikes. Oh well, not a big deal. And so that's bad. But by the same token, the Terrorblade is equally making mistakes by literally just sitting in the jungle AFK. Look, down bottom, he could be pushing this out with an illusion. He didn't defend his tier 1. He was roughly on par with the Legion. If he was scared of Duel, he didn't have to defend it himself. He has illusions he can defend the tower with, while he takes the jungle here. And in that way he can keep his tier 1 alive and not give it away for free. Giving away things for free is bad. You don't want to be nice to the other team. And that's sort of what this AFKing is doing. Obviously, this is the kind of rank where it just happens. You're not thinking too hard about it. You think, I need farm, and then you go and farm. You don't think, I need to also have map pressure, and I can do this, and I match well into this, and you know what? I say all this, I understand all of this, but if I play this Terrorblade, this is what I do. So I did it just yesterday, and it absolutely cost us the game. It was very sad. But it's important to learn, and if anyone listens to this, I hope that made sense, and I hope it's right, to be fair. I'm a scrub as well, but I listen to less scrubby people, and this is sort of what they say. Move the camera up. Meanwhile, the Viper has an Atos, which is okay this game. I don't think it's really what you like. Nice relocate in, will pretty much guaranteed to kill the CM. No, she actually managed to survive, just barely, on 1 tick of HP, so kind of a bad relocate in the end. Didn't play quite aggressive enough. Oh, what was I saying a second ago? I'm insane. I can't remember anything. Blink Blade Mail complete, Axe or lagging behind on that front, but it's a low skill game, and the other team doesn't have an anti-mage or anything, so they're not really playing the map very efficiently. You can see that. I mean, just look at it, frankly. They are finally going to get that tier 1 duel onto the Viper, but no follow-up. CM ult would be very good, but is it on the edge of the side? No, it's team silence, and it will look like they will clean up both of those cores. A good hook would do it, but his teammates are in the way. Could throw it now. Blink forward, but a quick tether away. Rupture onto the IO, who'll be brought down by the overwhelming odds, and they chase onto the Witch Doctor, who has made a big mistake. Hooks his own Legion Commander back, and that might be enough to keep him alive with the Coconut, and the Death Ward could actually bring down the Bloodseeker here. But it doesn't look like it, and it is close to a team wipe for the Radiant, and if they're any good, they'll be getting this, either the mid or this offlane tier 2. In reality, what they want to go for Roshan here. This tower doesn't actually open the map up at all. It's just a tower for tower's sake. This is a very important tower for them to grab, and the creeps are sort of in position to do it. But the best decision would probably be back Roshan, since that will really help them out if they put it on any of their cores. Frankly, that it just gives them such a big advantage in the fights, because when you bring an extra person to a fight, you tend to win. Dota is a game about managing resources and numbers. If you have a copy of a dude, because he just gets straight back up, you sort of double his resources. You have more, and having more, if you use it, will win you the game. The problem is, at this level, people don't use it. And what we're seeing is what we always see with the Terrorblade, is that at this rank, he farms, and he farms, and he farms, and then he's going to walk out the jungle, and then he's going to win the game. Now, they definitely have some options to deal with this Terrorblade. If they blink duel him with the Blade Mail while he's in meta, that will do a lot of damage, and if they can burst him behind that during the duel while he can't get a Sunder off, that is a very good way of killing him. It's probably their MO when it comes to killing him. But even then, that requires, a fair amount of coordination and understanding on how to play these fights, and I would not be overly surprised if these fights went Legion sees person, Legion blink duels person. It's not Terrorblade. Terrorblade walks in and kills everyone. I would be willing to bet at 40 minutes that's what's going to happen, and they'll lose the game off it. But the game has slowed down to an absolute crawl at this point. But Quap at least is actually managing to have a fair amount of game impact despite being completely trashed in lane. Looks like Witch Doctor is going to get dismembered and killed, whereas Quap will just walk into the other team and die. CM will get hooked away, might just about be enough to save her, but the meta's committed. Absolute hot waste of meta. The rest of the team just needs to back up and not take a fight. If that was a meta looking for kills, that was terrible. He could be using it to farm, but he isn't. Using meta to farm is really only okay when there's nothing you can actually achieve on the map with meta. And right now they could definitely achieve something on the map. They can take this tower, which is fine, but they could have held the meta until now. It's going to run out in a few seconds, and I imagine the glyph will see them through. Whereas if they'd held meta, popped it as they came up the tower, they'd still have most of meta left, and they'd be able to take a team fight off the back of it. As it is, meta has ended, and now the Dire are all back. They can take a team fight, and Terrorblade can just get kited pretty much for free in this fight, as he has no meta, which is a big part of what makes him strong, especially before he gets all his items. So they've very much squandered a pretty clean window of opportunity, and that's they do smoke up, and they are looking for something. Pudge is in position to break the smoke, however. Smoke is broken on the Pudge. He can just blink out or just walk away, apparently. And the Rupture and the duel onto the Viper, they have the mech save on him. The tether isn't broken by the Scream, but the CMO will bring him down. The Axe is sure to follow off the back of it, and the IO goes down in the meantime. Quick hook onto the Witch Doctor will make certain of his death. And then it's just Terrorblade. Looks like Quap will just about escape. Silence out, root from the CM, and he'll be brought down. It's team wipe. It's a team wipe, and they don't even get a tower out of it. Just sort of a dodgy initiation there from the Dire. Was good positioning from the Pudge to break that smoke and really set it all up. But a poor response. Just a poor response to let the Pudge just walk away. And now, all of a sudden, the Dire are rolling in it. They've got an 8k advantage. Their carry is ahead of the Terrorblade. Their fast-paced carry is ahead of the Terrorblade. Somehow. The Legion has a BKB, looking for a duel onto the Witch Doctor, though somehow doesn't get it, so pretty terrible BKB. But the Quap has pretty much recovered to at least a point of being pretty useful. Legion's standing very aggressively here, and it might be a problem. Quick blink out will... nothing will come of it. Legion would like... I think that what the Legion's doing is a good idea. Playing up and squeezing playing over the river and taking resources means that you get more from the map than they do. So, but I would like to see the rest of the team doing it with her. And as we see, as soon as the Pudge turns up, and they have a +1, they manage to pick up a kill. Dismember onto the Viper. Looks like they will both go down here to the Witch Doctor. Scream, but the mech save, and the Viper is no longer in any danger. Bit of a mess, all things considered. Would have been fine if the Legion hadn't wasted her BKB on nothing, but even so, it's a bit back and forth. Does CM actually get out without being seen there? Miraculous. I was convinced that they'd seen her. Looks like they're looking for a relocate gank onto the Bloodseeker, but I don't think they have any chance of killing the Bloodseeker. He saw it coming, in fact, and is just leaving. I don't think he was even in danger. He has a BKB, but probably can't fight into them, so definitely the right decision. And now he plays on their side of the map. He takes at least these two camps from them for sure, maybe pushes further, manages to take the larger jungle. And as soon as the Legion's up, I have no doubt she'll be joining them. They can now what they really want to do as the Dire is just play as 5, kill someone, take a fight, take a tower. That's the whole objective of their gameplay. And the Axe does get mech saved. BKB is popped, just concentrating through the blade mail. The Viper taken out the fight by the Pudge very early, dueled and brought down. Now it's just Terrorblade and Io versus 5. Does not have the Sunder up and it'll be brought down. The Hook doing a load of damage, just so much damage. Just so much damage. Doesn't look like they actually have any TP cancel except for the CM, who was too far away. Because the CM is a... Wow. Midas, Mech, Shadow, or Glimmer Cape, Blink Dagger is an interesting item build. It's a touch greedy. But sending back the telescope is certainly a curious option. It's really good. It's really, really good, and the armor is nice this game. And losing armor is bad because Terrorblade hit. Terrorblade does physical damage, as does Axe. Well, physical and pure from spin, but there's a lot of just hit you damage. And more than anything, telescope lets you be further away, and so you get hit less and you die less and you do more, which is just nice. But you know what? Whatever. I've completely lost the plot on this commentary at this point. But like I said, my boys, they know how to throw. If there's one skill that these players have, it's getting a lead and then handing it out. Like, you know, they're practically a charity organization at this point, with how much they give away, how much free MMR they give away to the other team when they really have no right. Terrorblade has Skadi finished up. Looks like it was only really just finished up, and has had no item progression beyond that, which isn't very good. Because he's now... how many items? He's sort of about an item behind the Bloodseeker. Does Blade Mail count as a full item? Probably, I guess. It's pretty cost efficient. Speaking of Blade Mail, he pops it as the Axe jumps on him. Duel on the Axe is one. Witch Doctor's brought down very quickly by some bad positioning. Scream onto the Viper, but the mech save is there, but it's simply not enough. There's too much damage, too much sustained damage coming out for the IO to really have a huge effect in these fights. And the IO just can't escape, because, I mean, poor IO just has nothing in terms of saving himself. The Dire has both sustained and burst damage, and it's very... and IO is good against burst damage rather than sustained damage. Decent against both, obviously, but it's much more impactful when they only have one massive wave of damage and then it's all undone. Whereas sustained damage just keeps coming. Yes, you can give someone double the health, as it were, but it doesn't. It's less impactful because it doesn't take them. It doesn't inconvenience them the same way it does as when they have one massive wave of damage that they have to blow. Just a blink forward from the Legion. Nice save, but not enough. The Legion is just too out of control. But the meta finally on the high ground will bring the Legions down. Viper will fall on the backlines. Poor time for lag, but it looks like Terrorblade will finally be brought down. Buyback on the Viper. Glimmer allows the Death Ward to go ahead. But even so, that is 4 for 1 with a buyback, and it is looking very grim for the Radiant. 2k net worth acquired. I wouldn't say it's a swing at this point, because it's only going one way. Let's have a look, in fact. Yeah, it's minor advantage, and then it was it all came up Millhouse for the Dire, and they've not let the pressure off, which is surprising. You'd think as this game scaled more towards the late game, the Radiant would have an advantage, because Bloodseeker isn't the greatest scaling of cores, and I don't know if he's good now after the reworks. He was bad, and then 7.27c came out, and they made some changes. Maybe he's good. I haven't played him, and I haven't really looked at the win rate either. But he definitely has always been quite a fast-paced carry, and Terrorblade is much later game. You'd think he would start to out-carry, but the Axe does. The Axe actually has very little in this game. And I think this is, you're starting to see the greed of this Blink first into Blade Mail build. There was no defensive item. Just no defensive item at all early on to keep him alive in the fights, and if you die every fight, you're going to get, even if you're winning fights, which they were, let's say they were going 50-50 on early in the game, you're going to get all your progression stunted. That's why dying on supports is really bad, because a lot of your income comes from surviving the fights, getting the assist gold, getting the AoE XP. It's very important. And when you play Axe in this really aggressive low farm style, which I don't personally like, you've got to be able to do both as an offlaner if you want to be actually any good. You've got to be able to balance impact with you keeping your progression up. But that depends on your role in the game and understanding that, and that's beyond me at the moment. But if you die every fight and you play this fighting style, then you're never going to get anything, and he's going to die again here. It doesn't matter about the IO heal at this point. There's just too much damage. Looks like, yeah, they'll be brought down again. Scream of Pain, Jewel, just freezing field, everything, just absolute domination in terms of teamfight. Yes, they popped all their ults for that. However, 2 of them are low cooldown. Doesn't look like the Quap has an egg, so 3 long cooldown ults, but that was a very effortless fight. And they can still do it even without the ults. The ults just make it easier. I'm not even convinced they popped all their BKBs for that, and the Pudge just jumps in, catches a Dismember, and Viper dies. Which isn't overly surprising, but is unfortunate. And there goes middle racks. I would not be surprised if they push to end here. Probably safer to at least grab the second set of racks. GG is called by the IO. Looks like one final attempt is mounted. Nice call by the Axe. Does break the Aegis on the Legion, but it was only the Aegis, and now you have to kill it again. And it just, that isn't going to happen. The Jewel on the TB, and it's all down. They're all dead. I am very surprised. I thought this TB would come online and be very effective in these fights, but I think it was just very poorly played and poor map movement from the Radiant more than anything. Blowing abilities when they don't have to, and then not using them at the right times, not capitalizing on the advantages when they had them, and then kind of just slowly feeding them away. We see the Salt coming out at the end, which is a Dota 2 tradition.